False. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Secretary Blinken arrived in Israel on a mission to slow this war down, pushing for humanitarian pauses to allow more aid into Gaza, buy time to free hostages held by Hamas, and for cooler heads to emerge. The timing is critical. The Israeli military says its forces have finished encircling Gaza City and are in street battles. A push into the city could be extraordinarily violent. Israel is already losing troops and has outlined no clear exit strategy or long-term plan. In Gaza, Hamas seems happy to pull Israel into a long-term guerrilla war, no matter what the consequences for the people of Gaza. Our crew watched as Abu Abdullah returned to the Jabalia refugee camp, poor and crowded before the war, and now being flattened by Israeli strikes. He came to apologize to his family under the rubble, and he couldn't do more to help them. I'm sorry I couldn't help you, he says. He adds a prayer and says to God, I can't take it anymore. After hours of digging, one daughter, 12-year-old Lian, is found. He begs people to look for his youngest son, Aboud, who he'd promised to send to nursery school. He keeps apologizing to Lian as he carries her back to neighbors so he can search for his other daughter, 3 sons, and wife. No one was found alive. Anger, rage, and hopelessness help Hamas recruit in Gaza. There's rage across Israel, too, after Hamas butchered 1,400 Israelis and took more than 240 hostages, including the disabled and children. According to human rights groups and the UN, extremist Jewish settlers in the West Bank are taking advantage of the war to attack Palestinians to take their land. Eliana and Khalil Basir were collecting olives in the West Bank. He's 77. She's 69. They're Christians. The couple says Jewish settlers last week attacked them without provocation. Khalil told me one of the settlers grabbed him in the groin. He was then hit repeatedly with a heavy stick. Khalil never called the police. They don't do anything, he says. They don't even answer.
A new UN report said that settler violence has increased significantly since the October 7th attack, and that in nearly half the cases, Israeli security forces supported or accompanied the attackers.
Therein lies the dilemma. You got a right-wing government in Israel, you got a terrorist government in Gaza, and this is what it looks like, everybody. This is what it looks like. Who you choose actually matters. The West Bank, if I have to say it every single day, then I will. The West Bank is a horror show, and Netanyahu is responsible for this horror. He is. He could be using the West Bank as an example of coexistence. He could be pointing to the West Bank and saying, see, this is what a two-state solution could look like, feel like, smell like. This is how it could, be like for children, for elderly, for seniors who have counted on people like me making the peace for 75 freaking years. Oh, but oh no. You have to understand who Netanyahu is. He's Trump. And I can't say it enough. It was actually, I've been saying this for so long that now newspaper articles are finally being written about how you should think about Netanyahu as Trump. Yeah. People who do not value other people's hopes and dreams and aspirations. People who actually only value themselves and use government for their own protection. This is exactly the hands that this, country is in over there. And this is exactly who Americans want to be, in control here. It won't turn out well, okay? You understand that. And this entire thing is being designed and deployed by people who would wish us harm, by people who hate us. It is Russia. It is Iran. It is exterminators. It is people who literally don't give a damn about any living, breathing thing that is Western. Okay? The idea that this, now I'm reading articles that go, is this Putin's century? What? No, people are actually asking, is this his century? I mean, it's shocking. It's horrible. So you have to understand that the right wing of the world is acting against all people, anybody who has hopes and dreams. Now, Netanyahu, I really would love for you to familiarize yourself with who he is and what he's done and what he wants and what party he's with. And, from the very earliest days when he became the head of the Likud party, which is the right wing in Israel. We used to have, here we used to have, a Democratic Party and a Conservative Party and a independent, whatever. Israel used to have a very, very fulsome, let's just say, progressive, a party. The Labor Party, it's almost non-existent at this point. It doesn't even have, representation in the vast parliamentary system that is their system of governance, right? What you have there is the ultra right wing and then the medium right wing. It's just like the Republican Party. You got the maggots and then you've got people who are actually getting pissed at Tuberville. Do you know what I'm saying? And they're not exactly Democrats. They're right wing, they're Republicans, but they're starting to see that Tuberville is an idiot that needs to be called out. Why? Because the world is on fire and he is literally standing in the way of military promotions that people have earned. And it's going to, one guy, the commandant of the Marines, you probably know this, right? That this week, I think it was, Friday, Thursday, it was Wednesday, I think, that it was in the paper that the acting commandant of the Marines had a heart attack. Because he's, fit as a fiddle, man. The guy looks good, right? Obviously. But he's doing like 2 and 3 jobs now because he has no deputy and they won't confirm and they have no, a permanent. Because of Tuberville. Because of a freaking Alabama football coach who never served in the military. But he knows best. I mean, it's really sick and it's really twisted. And so, finally, the Republicans started to say to his face, you're an impediment. You're an impediment to national security. We don't know what the F your game is, but whatever it is, quit playing it. And I just have this sick suspicion that they're playing McConnell's game. And it's interesting because McConnell is against his own game now, right? McConnell doesn't want, positions held open pending a Trump return, the way that McConnell held open a Supreme Court seat pending a Republican presidency during the Obama years, right? I guess he sees the error of his ways, or maybe he only likes it when he does it because he feels like he's the only person smart enough to actually do it right so that, he can get what he wants. I mean, it's very sick. It's very sad. But Tuberville's got this big blockade on military promotions right now. And finally, the right wing is starting to, get really pissed. They're starting to say, well, what is the purpose? What is the end game? And nobody in the media wants to tell you what I just said. Nobody in the media wants to speculate that the reason is because they want a military loyal to Donald. They want a military that will follow Donald Trump's orders even if they violate the laws of war. When I tell you that Netanyahu is Trump, I'm not kidding. And when you see how brutal it looks over there and how there's no regard even for the PR, not the press, but the PR, no regard at all for sentiment turning against Israel, sentiment turning against, in the wider world, Jews. Netanyahu doesn't give a damn about any of the repercussions of what we're seeing on the TV. But I do. And you know who else does? Joe Biden. Anthony Blinken got on a plane. He's back in Israel today to tell them, okay, maybe we do need to pause because the way that you're doing this matters. And the way that you're doing this isn't good. It's dangerous.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Yeah.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
growing outrage over Senator Tommy Tuberville's unprecedented blockade of promotions for hundreds of senior military officers.
I hate to have to do this, but somebody has got to listen to us, okay?
For the past 9 months, the Alabama Republican has refused to allow speedy confirmation votes on more than 350 promotions, unless the Pentagon reverses its abortion policy that provides time off and travel expenses to service members who have to seek abortions out of state. The political move now triggering a bipartisan backlash.
Patience is wearing thin on both sides of the aisle over the senator's antics,
culminating in a Senate floor fight Wednesday as Republicans tried to pass 60 military promotions one by one, with Tuberville blocking all of them.
If this is the norm, who the hell wants to serve in the military when your promotion can be canned based on something you had nothing to do with?
Even with wars raging in the Middle East and Ukraine, Tuberville remains defiant.
If I thought there was any problem with readiness, we wouldn't be doing this.
But his blockade is having an impact on military families. The Commandant of the Marine Corps, General Eric Smith, suffered a heart attack this week while doing the job of 2 different officers.
Great.
Senate Armed Service Committee Chairman Jack Reed told Politico he thought Smith's workload contributed to his hospitalization. But Tuberville dismissed that, comparing the general's duties to his old job as Auburn's football coach.
Come on, give me a break. This guy's going to work 18, 20 hours a day no matter what. That's what we do. You know, I did that for years.
Still, for those officers in limbo, the delay is agonizing. Kate Marsh-Lord, a military spouse, advocates for military families.
Families have been serving for literally decades, and this is the first time where they are being used as political pawns.
Now, Senate rules and tradition allow for any one senator to slow the process of voting down substantially, but no one has ever dragged out what are normally non-controversial votes like these for this long. The Senate can vote on these promotions one by one. In fact, they passed 3 of them yesterday, but it would take months of doing only that on the Senate floor to clear this backlog. Now, a growing number of senators are debating changing the rules entirely to go around Tuberville and end this blockade.
You think? You think we need to change a rule or two to go around Tuberville, who's been doing this for, 9 months or some crazy amount of time? I mean, this is so sick and sad, and using the military as a political pawn in his abortion, issue. He's got a problem. He's got a problem with women. He's got a problem with misogyny. He's got a problem with wanting to control. They're not going to be happy until we actually look like over there, and they start telling us, well, America has a very young population. Half of them are children, because we're trying not to go extinct. I mean, honestly.
How dare he compare coaching a mediocre SEC team to the strategic defense of this country? That is crazy.
Not even Bobby Knight could get away with that crap.
R.I.P.
Yeah. R.I.P. Bobby. R.I.P. Throw a chair. Throw a chair, everybody,
Throw a
this
chair
weekend. For Bobby. Yeah, remember Bobby. Bobby. Yeah, Bobby Knight died. What was he, 83? He probably could have made it to 93 if he just would have kept his blood pressure, below 190. But no, hell no. He was just irate all the time. Remember Bobby Knight, right? But anyway, Tuberville, comparing himself to the Commandant of the Marines. The nerve of it's so amazing that here you are, a football coach for a university football team in Alabama, and you think that it's comparable to a Commandant of the Marines who's in charge of, hundreds of thousands of lives every single freaking day. And not just lives, but, whether or not they get paid, whether or not, I don't even think, that he had to worry about his players getting paid, did he? That wasn't even payroll isn't even a thing.
I mean, it kind of was.
It's not.
It just wasn't officially a thing.
Yeah, right. I get you. I get you. I feel you. But people are losing their minds now because they're starting to realize that the minority in this country is tyrannical. Well, where have you been? Right-wing lunatics do these things, and we're going to end up looking just like over there if we don't wake up and realize that the right-wing lunatics of this world, the Putins and the Netanyahus and the Nasrallah, I mean, really, is that a thing? They actually, honestly, today, don't go on social media. It's so bad. It is so offensive. It is so disgusting what is amplified by the algorithm now. What is getting like massive distribution is like a terrorist group's leader goes on TV and doesn't say whether or not he's going to deploy the Hezbollah. Okay, it's like in The Wizard of Oz. You know, the Wicked Witch of the West, she's got the flying monkeys. It's like that's Hezbollah. We used to have a caller. We used to call her Hezbollah lady. She used to call up Neil Rogers back in the day, and she would just scream, Hezbollah! Okay. But they actually, like promoted the head of a terrorist organization talking today to the point where it was trending on social media. It is really creepy, like how much emphasis is being put on terrorist groups right now as being, I don't know, the great Princess Leia types, right? Now all of a sudden they're the resistance. Please spare me. If you find yourself mutilating children and filming it, you are not on the side of what's right and good about this world. And the right wing is desperately trying to peel the left wing, to tear the left wing apart. There's no question in my mind that this kind of attack on the Democrats all over the world is something Netanyahu knows a little bit about. It's what he was able to do. When he first started being Netanyahu, like in the early 90s, right? It was because, somebody from the right-wing Likud party, some real radical, lunatic, fringy dude, committed an assassination. And, it's interesting because when Begin was assassinated, when Rabin was assassinated, right before the assassination, apparently the intelligence in Israel had gone to Benjamin Netanyahu, who was the head of the right wing there, the Likud party, and said to him, you better tone your rhetoric down because somebody's going to get killed. Isn't that exactly what the right wing had to tell you in Georgia? That, this has got to stop. Somebody's going to get shot. Somebody's going to get killed. You remember that? Gabe Sterling had to get on the TV and tell him, pull it back. Somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody's going to get shot. Somebody's going to get killed. Well, apparently the intelligence in Israel, I guess it was Bet Shane, who is like the FBI there, went and talked to him and said to him, if you don't stop what you're doing, somebody's going to get killed. And a right-wing lunatic actually did assassinate Rabin. Why? Because of the Oslo Accords. What was that? A two-state solution. And Netanyahu would never, ever make peace. Ever. He would do everything and anything to stop peace. That's why the West Bank is a horror show. Because of him. Now, Gaza is a horror show because of Hamas.
Call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Okay, so this is Republican Senator Dan Sullivan screaming about his colleague, idiot boy Tuberville.
I want the American people to know right now 376 promotions to 1, 2, 3, and 4-star generals and admirals are being held. It is estimated by the end of this year, 89% of all general officer positions in the United States military will be affected by the current holds from Senator Tuberville. Either our members have to be forced to retire, positions not filled, an acting capacity will be unable to retire. This is pretty much the entire officer corps.
Now, what Mr. Dan Sullivan, who is a Republican from Arkansas, isn't going to say if I let the whole floor speech play is why. And no one in the media has a philosophy or an idea about why we would want to see 89% of the very top of the military, those positions be left unfilled, or people forced to retire and then leave those positions open pending a new election. Fascinating, ain't it? Ain't it? if you think that it can't happen here, you better open your eyes and see who's running this freak show of war, because it isn't Labor Party people and it's not Democrats. Okay, it's not it's not anybody but the right wing. It is, and Putin. If you look at the way that Netanyahu is fighting, I don't know. This might ring a bell for some of you who really do pay attention. Like you take the New York Times weekly quiz and you get them all right, like that kind of a person, So what Netanyahu is doing in the West Bank is he is encircling, right? He said, "We are at the gates of Gaza." Okay. We're at the gate. If there are gates to Gaza, then they're the only things left standing, okay, because it's northern, and that's where Israel has the gates, right? But no, all kidding aside, they are circling Gaza City. They've encircled it. Now, that is a tactic. It's a strategy. It's a military strategy. Why would you encircle a city? Why would you do that? You do that because that means no one can leave the city. Reinforcements and supplies can't come into the city, right? Reinforcements and supplies can't come in. You are all around it, and so they don't even know inside the city where you'll begin the attack. Will it be from the north, the south, the east, or the west? Doesn't, it's up to you. You can choose because you're encircling an entire city. You know what that feels so familiar, why that feels so familiar to you, and that you may understand the encirclement technique, the strategy of it? Right, Ukraine, Bakhmut. Remember that? Except Bakhmut, when they encircled that particular city, Russia did, it had no strategic value whatsoever. Bakhmut, everybody was telling you why. They were wondering, why is Putin doing this? There is no benefit to him to take this city. There's nothing there. They don't have ports. They don't have, production. They don't have, why? Why? He was doing it just to deplete them. He was doing it to get them to, shoot all their ammunition and to, blow through all of their artillery shells, just to, kill all the soldiers, have no resistance at the end, because the city there had absolutely no strategic value whatsoever if you conquered that land. Now, Gaza City, different thing. That is the home of Hamas. Okay, it is. It's Hamas's command center, which they built below those people's houses. Now, I don't know how you would live in a house and not know that your basement was full of terrorists. I don't know. I'll leave that aside. You can figure that one out on your own.
Look, I'm not in the Gaza Strip, and I think there's terrorists below me. I mean, it sounds like it every weekend.
Oh, at your apartment?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if they start stockpiling ammunition and they start stockpiling fuel.
Right now, they're just stockpiling copious amounts of very strong marijuana. That's all I've got evidence of right now.
So breathe deep, my friend.
It's
free.
I really only brought this up to thank them if they're listening.
Yeah, right. I mean, let's not pretend we don't know you. We know you. But yeah. So I honestly, that is why. So there is a strategic value to encircling Gaza City. There was none in the Russian Bakhmut encirclement, right? There was no value to it at all, except to deplete all shells and ammunition and soldiers, just to kill them all, right? Didn't work, but it was brutal. It was really brutal. And for some reason, we didn't get the kind of news coverage about that we do about this. It's really kind of fascinating. And something tells me that there is a reason. There is a reason for that. In fact, if you read around a little bit, you might learn that some of the people wearing press vests, the blue ones, the blue press vests with the blue helmets, who are posing as journalists really are working for Hamas. And that people are just taking what they're saying as a face value, and nobody's questioning anything. I think that, some of the reports that you're seeing where the people wearing the blue press vests and the helmets who are throwing them down and crying and screaming and saying we're not being protected, we're being sacrificed, I think that their comments are directed at Hamas because they work for Hamas and still their families were killed. You see what I mean? And there's some careless, dissemination of this information without context going on. One of the women that lost her whole family. She was holding her son. The images are they're horrendous. It's the most brutal, inhumane slaughter that you'll ever know, and that's called war. But there was a woman, and she was holding her son, and she screamed in Arabic at the camera, "This is the result of those Hamas dogs. They did this." But, you'll never know that unless you have a friend who speaks Arabic who can translate it for you. Yeah. So it's an interesting time we live in. But however, the fog of war is what they'll call it. But the social media crap, the idea that there's a very strong, left-wing defense of a terrorist organization now in our country is really bizarre. And watching social media favor, the leader of Hezbollah, which is also a terrorist organization in southern Lebanon, watching them, pay attention to his every word. Meanwhile, he's a chicken crap, okay, because he wouldn't commit one way or the other. Whether he was going in, whether he was going to deploy, whether his terrorist group had enough. No, didn't say. But I just want you to know that when Netanyahu is meeting with Vladimir Putin and they're becoming best friends, and when Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin are becoming best friends, right? And when Hamas is meeting with Vladimir Putin and they're becoming best friends, and when Iran, the Ayatollah in Iran and Assad in Syria are hanging out with Putin and they're all becoming best friends, trust me, it isn't because they have, the good of, humankind in mind. It's not because they want to stop the bloodshed. No, it isn't.
Clear for takeoff. The Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Overnight, relentless Israeli missile strikes in Gaza. Fire and smoke lighting up the night sky as Israel says its troops are now surrounding Gaza City. Amid the death and destruction, Secretary of State Antony Blinken touching back down in Tel Aviv this morning, meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and Israel's war cabinet, as the Biden administration urges a humanitarian pause, saying it would allow humanitarian aid to get in and the hostages to get out. But they're not calling for an end to the attacks.
We do not support a ceasefire, and that gives time for Hamas to regroup, which is something that, again, would put Israeli citizens and others in danger.
Nearly 4 weeks in, more than 9,000 civilians have been killed in Gaza, according to the Hamas-run health ministry, as Israel responds to the massacre of more than 1,400 people and the capture of hostages. More than 240 still remain trapped in Gaza, including Americans. And overnight, ABC News learning the US has been flying unarmed Reaper drones above Gaza to help get hostages out. The drones equipped with cameras and sensors that can intercept voice and data communications. And on the ground, Israeli forces advancing. Its troops fighting Hamas in face-to-face combat inside Gaza City. But they're facing rising losses. 23 soldiers killed in action since the ground invasion began a week ago. Fighter jets and warships are backing up the ground offensive, Hamas being targeted by air, sea and land.
We've just heard the sound of a fighter jet dropping its payload into the city. They say that they're targeting Hamas. But also, we know that there are still civilians in there who haven't listened to the order to leave, and many of them continue to die every day.
Now, why is that? Why would people keep their families in there when leaflets were dropped and millions of text messages were sent, directions to safe zones were given? I don't know. I don't know exactly, why people stayed there. I have no idea. But I will tell you right now that the ceasefire idea is not happening, and here's why. Do you really think that you could have diplomacy with Hamas? Yeah, because I don't. I think that if they wanted diplomatic solutions to their problems, Hamas did, I think the first thing they should do, release the hostages. Just saying, that would be a nice goodwill gesture, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that make you serious about wanting peaceful resolution to this? Yeah, but they won't. They're not going to do it. Okay, there's no way that they're releasing an 80-year-old woman or a 3-year-old baby, which is what they got over there. And I love the way our media just, casually sometimes mentions two things, that there are hostages still being held casually. And the other thing that's interesting that they mention is that the numbers are coming from Hamas. They'll call it the Palestinian Health Authority or the Gazan Health Authority. It's Hamas because they're the government there, okay? That is the government there. In the West Bank, they have different government. They have the Palestinian Authority, but the Palestinian Authority is corrupt, A, and B, Netanyahu is very interested in taking their land and does it every day. It's all right-wing crap. It's all disgusting, and it's all got to stop. And it can't stop now until there's some sort of a resolution that actually includes releasing hostages. Seriously, dude, I don't even know how serious, Netanyahu is about getting the hostages. I have no earthly idea what's going on in his brain. I can just tell you that this guy is a right-wing lunatic and that this particular version of Israeli government, this particular part of it, it's just like when we had Trump and the whole world was looking at us going, oh, my God, what is happening over there? What's happening to America? What is going on over there? Everybody's getting shot in the street. Police are beating civilians. They're literally standing on people's necks for like 8 minutes, looking direct to camera with arrogant, empowerment on their face. What the? Well, that's the way you should be looking at Israel. That's the way you should be looking at Netanyahu's government. Same damn way. Same exact. But, people don't want to look at Netanyahu or his government. They want to look at Israel. A whole state has to be punished because they got this maniac as their leader. This particular version of their government is the most right-wing, extremist version of government anyone in Israel has ever seen. Trust me, no one has ever seen this. And people there want this to stop. They've been protesting him since way before October 7th. They were out on the street night after night, day after day, because they understood what he was doing, and that what he was doing was counter to what the entire majority of the population of Israel wanted. Same thing's happening here. Same thing. Everybody sits there and goes, if 98% of us want background checks, how come we can't get background checks? If 67% or 80% or 70% of America wants women to be left alone in their reproductive lives, why aren't they being left alone in their reproductive lives? It's the same here as it is there. It's just we got a pause. We did. We're having ourselves a little pause because Donald Trump is on trial with his children lying for him on the stand. When your children have to testify for you in a fraud trial that's already been decided, and the decision is, yes, you committed fraud repeatedly and you will never stop committing fraud, to the point where we have to revoke your business certifications so that you cannot do business in New York anymore because you will never, ever be honest. And no one should have to be, subject to your phony numbers and your fake evaluations. Oh, my God. And the boys yesterday, my God, does anybody really believe that Eric Trump, you know what he said in his testimony? He said, he was the one when Donald Trump became president. He had this big dog and pony show, remember, with all the papers and everything, and he signed it all over, and it was going to be in trust, and his boys were going to head up the Trump organization, and they were going to run this beautiful business for Donald Trump, his beautiful family, his great sons were going to. Now all of a sudden, no one knows what was going on, right? Eric Trump goes, I wasn't responsible for reporting, the health of the finances. I mean, I signed off on a lot of things because, I was important, but really what I was doing was pouring concrete. He was pouring concrete, everybody. I honestly, I don't think that he knows how. to make concrete. Like, not even enough to make concrete to, you know, put your air conditioning unit on. We all know what I'm talking, right? You've all poured a little bit of concrete in your life, haven't you? He poured concrete. And Junior, he just, you know, laughed through the whole thing. You know, Trump goes on Monday. I bet you he takes the 5th. Yeah. And then Ivanka, oh, this was so beautiful. Ivanka actually had the nerve to tell the court she couldn't testify next week because she has 3 children and no child care. And the court was like, we'll see you on Wednesday. I couldn't believe, I mean, the nerve of them. And Alina Habba, did you see her yesterday? The children are being persecuted. But she wasn't talking about, war zones. She was talking about Eric and Don Jr.
Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump have long lived in their father's shadow. But as executives at the Trump Organization, they are now his co-defendants in a civil fraud trial, entering court together with a thumbs up and a wave on Thursday. On the stand, they faced a grilling. Eric Trump at times growing visibly irritated as the 2 brothers testified that they were not aware that the documents that they had signed artificially inflated the value of their properties.
You pay experts millions of dollars to be experts. You sign off on what they give you, and you're liable.
Both younger Trumps instead blamed the organization's accountants for preparing those statements.
Mazars.
In a videotaped deposition played in court, Eric Trump denied having any involvement with them at all.
Because I don't think I've ever had any involvement in the statement of financial condition.
But prosecutors then confronted him with internal emails showing that he did know about those statements.
Oh, email.
Raising his voice in anger, Eric Trump responded, "We're a major organization, a massive real estate organization. I am aware we have financial statements in general," but he insisted he did not keep track of the company's finances, telling the judge, "I pour concrete. I'm a construction guy. I don't focus on appraisals and emails."
These children are being brought in away from their families for doing nothing wrong.
These children! The children, everybody. What's going to happen to the children? Beavis and Butthead are adults now, okay? They are not children, Alina, and they are defendants. Now, they're throwing Connie, whatever his name is, the CFO, they're throwing him and Weisselberg and Mazars under the bus. They knew nothing. We see nothing. You know, accountants prepare your taxes based on what you give them. Yeah, they don't make up numbers. You have to give them your numbers.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes.
Yes.
Mary had a little man, the fall.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
I want you to listen to Wolf Blitzer. To Hakeem Jeffries on CNN yesterday. Wolf Blitzer, as I understand it, his parents weren't victims in one way or another of the Holocaust, but certainly his family comes out of that background.
What?
But you wouldn't know it. Because the ideology of the left is very attractive. It's very compelling.
Mark Levin is a scuzzball, okay? He always has been. I've known him forever. I think he had a crush on me at one point. But honestly, the idea that he would trash Wolf Blitzer's family as not having been hurt or harmed in the Holocaust one way or another. I don't know if you know this. You know that Wolf Blitzer, I know him too. We all know each other in a weird way, okay? Because all of us elder broadcasters have been around in the same period of time. Some of us actually in the same company, working, together, but far, far, far apart for forever, for decades now. Wolf Blitzer, all 4 of his grandparents, all 4 of them were killed in the Holocaust. All 4 of them. were taken to camps, and all 4 of them were executed by the Nazis. Why is Mark Levin, why do they feel the need to say crap like that? If Wolf Blitzer asks a difficult question about something that the right-wing Likud party in Israel is doing that is causing blowback for American Jews. Aren't you one, Mark? Let me just show you something. Okay, this is a very brief little snippet of a special that Wolf Blitzer did exploring his history, okay?
That's my cousin, Pepe Dotan. We grew up together in Buffalo. She's here to help me find my mother's roots. Where the Zilberfuden residence was. What number was it?
Number 12.
Whatever house they had is gone.
Yeah, it's closed.
Together, we found what's left of my grandfather's old factory that produced clay pipes. Not far from that factory was the slave labor camp where my mother, her sister Paula, and 2 brothers, Mike and Yurik, worked. But this was the land where the Skarzisko labor camp, Camp A, was.
In this camp, 24,000 Jews came in for labor. Almost 18,000 died here. There was no crematorium here, but they simply burned the bodies. And we're told that they buried the ashes here in this place. So it's conceivable that our grandparents are, their ashes
we have
are
no
here.
idea.
We have no idea, no.
When you look at my mom now, she's 92 years old, you wouldn't realize how courageous she was when she was liberated in 1945 from the slave labor camp. They told all the Jewish workers, you're going to be marching on this death march. My mother knew that if they were on this forced death march, they would die.
This remarkable woman took her siblings and hid in the basement of the factory. And they stayed there for a few days until they were finally liberated by the Russians.
Yeah, he's lying, you know. He made that up. I mean, the people on the right-wing lunatics are lunatics. Right-wing people don't care who they hurt. They don't care who they denigrate. They don't care who they smear. They don't care who they lie about. Because they're takers, man. That's all they do. They take and take and take, and they never give. They never give. They never give back, ever. It's the takers and the makers. And, I mean, this is exactly the kind of government that they dream of in this world now. This is exactly what they're hoping for. Autocrats everywhere as far as the eye can see. People that kill children, people that burn bodies, people that slaughter for the sake of slaughtering, or people who slaughter for the sake of, believing some weird ideology about things will be better for you if you just kill him. It's a very sick, sick party, and it's a global thing. It's not unique to us, okay? It isn't. If you have a guy in Alabama who's never served in the military holding up 89% of the top military appointments in this country because he's waiting for somebody. He's waiting for somebody else to take power so that the military is now loyal to that person when they take power, then you know you're in deep crap. Okay? Something really evil and ugly is afoot. Something is going on. And you know what's crazy is the right wing around the world, and this, I can't explain this to you any better than I've tried to explain to you for a week now. The right wing of this world it's like they know each other, okay? And they all got each other's back. And, the idea that if Russia, listen, you understand why now, right? You understand why Russia didn't attack Ukraine during the Trump administration, right? Did you ever figure that out for yourself? I think you did. I hope you did. It was because Donald Trump was going to give Vladimir Putin Ukraine. He wouldn't have had to fight for it. He wouldn't have had to used up his tanks and used up his shells and used up his ammo to the point where he had to go to Iran to get shells, artillery shells, and ammo for the guns from freaking Iran. But he knew he could go to them and they would give because they already gave him drones. And now, in exchange for giving him drones in his time of need when he wanted to slaughter the Ukrainians because Trump lost, And now, oh, damn, now I got to go take it. All right, that's what I'll do. I'll go take it. Because Trump lost, right? And so now Iran wants something out of the deal. What does Iran want? Well, first of all, they want Israel. And second, they want to build a drone factory outside of Iran. And Putin says, yeah, come into Russia. I'll give you, and they're going to build thousands and thousands of drones in Russia. The Iranians are. Small world, isn't it? There's a handful of people who are you know how we used to say ill repute? These are prostitutes, okay? These are people of ill repute. These are people who literally sold their souls to the devil. And if you don't believe in the devil, they sold their souls to the evil, that men do. And said, they pledged that they would do this kind of evil as long as the status quo could be disrupted. I don't know if they're chaos lovers or if they're conquerors at heart or if they're just plain evil. Mass murderers, killers. Remember? And when Trump was asked, but isn't Putin a killer? Remember, Bill O'Reilly asked him. Bill O'Reilly said, there's a lot of killers. What do you think? We're so innocent? So he was literally telling his mind, relax about killing ordinary people. It's the price of entry if you want to be a leader. No, if you want to be a right-wing leader. I swear to God. And that is the club that Netanyahu is part of. That is exactly his wheelhouse. That is where he is. The idea that he has been prime minister in Israel almost uninterrupted from 2009 until now. And before that, he was prime minister too in 1995. He became the head of this right-wing lunatic party, the Likud party, I think in 93, and in 95 he was elected prime minister, and then he lost. He lost almost immediately after that, right? But back then you had a very lively Labor Party. You had a very lively two-party system in Israel. You had the center-left, the Labor Party, and you had the right-wing Likud party. But the Likud party was always made up of a lot of paramilitary guys. It was Menachem Begin and Yitzhak Shamir. And for those of you who don't know who they are, that's fine. Just know that they were military dudes who wandered into the, right-wing politics in Israel. Shamir's interesting because he was part of a group that admitted it was a terrorist group and was wanted by the British government before Israel was founded. Anyway, moving forward, they're a very hardline, violent, to Arab existence party. Sort of like Donald Trump with We Build the Wall. No, that was fraud. Donald Trump with the southern border. No, he never protected it. Well, at least Netanyahu did build his freaking wall. Didn't work, but he built it.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
We're focused on setting the conditions for a durable and sustainable peace and security. The United States continues to believe that the best viable path, indeed the only path, is through a two-state solution. That's the only guarantor of a secure Jewish and democratic Israel, the only guarantor of Palestinians realizing their legitimate right to live in a state of their own, enjoying equal measures of security, freedom, opportunity, and dignity. The only way to end a cycle of violence once and for all. And it's precisely now, in the darkest moments, that we have to fight hardest to preserve a path of stability, of security, of opportunity, of integration, of prosperity, and of peace. Not tomorrow, not after the war, but today.
And let me tell you, as hard as the center right or the center left or the progressive left or anybody in labor or anybody in a progressive or anybody in a democratic posture would fight for a two-state solution, that's how hard the right wing fights against it. And Benjamin Netanyahu's entire life has been dedicated to stopping something called the Oslo Accords, stopping the two-state solution, to the point where, this is what I was telling you before, I just want to close this loop, close this circle. In 1993, okay, when Benjamin Netanyahu became the head of this right-wing lunatic Likud party, okay, he is an American educated, lived here in the United States of America, grew up in Philadelphia. He was a consultant for Boston Consulting Group. I mean, he's friends with Mitt Romney. You understand? Okay, this is as an American person as you could get. But right-wing American version of right-wing hatred, right-wing ideology, okay? He is super freaking radical. And that's saying something when I tell you that the other two people I named who were part of the Likud party prior to him becoming prime minister came from, the paramilitary groups in Israel, okay? So he is even more radical than they are. And the thing that radicalizes him, the thing that makes him go back there, the thing that he opposes like virulently, like a virus, okay, is the Oslo Accords. Yeah, the two-state solution that Bill Clinton negotiated. And so he starts leading all these marches where people are calling for Yitzhak Rabin, the prime minister who entered into the Oslo Accords. They start calling for his assassination on the right, from his own people, Rabin's own people, but people in opposition to him in a political sense, right? And so Netanyahu is leading these marches where people are calling for Rabin's head on a platter, but seriously to have him killed, right? And he's actually approached by the Israeli intelligence services who say, you need to pipe down. You need to turn your rhetoric down because something really bad is going to happen. We see the security risk coming. It's kind of like Christopher Wray just testified this week about rampant, rabid anti-Semitism sweeping the nation here, right? There's always fallout from this kind of talk. There's always fallout from this kind of agitation, from this kind of illegitimate posture, where you need to take, not build. You need to break, not build. You need to take, not make, right? Always. It's so easy to break things. It's so hard to build things. Well, Eric Trump would know that because, he's a builder, everybody. He's a concrete guy. Concrete like, this boy's life, maybe. I'm from concrete. I'm a concrete man. Remember that?
De Niro, right?
Yeah. One of the greatest sleeper roles De Niro ever did. That is a freaking amazing. That's Leonardo DiCaprio and De Niro. Oh, and somebody look it up real quick and tell me who the lead was, because she's amazing. And how I'm blanking out on her name is just, it's a sin. It's a shanda, I tell you.
Are you referring to Ellen Barkin?
Yes. Ellen Barkin, who Susan Sarandon introduced us once at a party. Just saying. Oh, I just hurt my back dropping that name and picking it up. Oh, okay. But anyway, so Netanyahu was agitating for Rabin to be killed. And guess what happened, everybody? Guess what? Yes, a right-wing assassin actually killed Rabin. Killed him, assassinated him. Which led to an election. And that's how we got Shimon Peres. But he was a Labor Party dude, okay? And, Netanyahu is still motivated by killing peace. That is his entire reason for living. That is his entire reason for being Netanyahu, okay? Killing the Oslo Accords, literally preventing a two-state solution, literally taking away the ability for this sliver of land to live peacefully with each other, which is what the majority of people there want. It is. You'd never know it. You'd never know it from this news coverage. But that's what he's known for. That's who he is. That's what he does, We had, our chance here too. We had our chance to do everything. And we did, Bill Clinton showed up for it. Two-state solution, actually, I remember that. I thought it was, and Egypt too, when the peace was being made with Egypt, some right-wing freaking Egypt killed Anwar Sadat. Killed him too. His own people. Why? Well, because these, upstart groups, it's very profitable hate. Very, very profitable. You know, Yasser Arafat is also equally responsible for no peace in the Middle East. Why? Because he was presented with an opportunity to make the peace, but he was making money being, a PLO leader. Just like now, you got this guy Abbas in the West Bank. And he's as corrupt as can be. He's an old man, but he's corrupt as can be. And, this is why Netanyahu lets him, be. Because he goes in there with his right-wing extremists, religious extremists. And they build these settlements. They kick people out of their houses. They shoot people now, the right wing of Israel. They go into the West Bank and they literally shoot people. If there was an apartheid thing going on, it would be there in the West Bank. And the PLO is there, letting it happen. Like someone's greasing them to turn their back on their own people. And you know what? The people there know it. They know it. That's how people like Hamas actually win elections. That's how. And then you never have another election because they're right-wing lunatics. They're autocrats. They're terrorists. But if we could actually understand that the right wing around this world, they all hang with each other. They all support each other. And it's going to be to every living thing's detriment that we didn't orient ourselves, that we weren't familiar with who they are and what they've done and what they will continue to do. This is Putin. This is Netanyahu. This is Trump. This is the Ayatollah. This is Assad in Syria.
Connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
To not understand that Israel's enemies are Ukraine's enemies, that Hamas has met with Putin, that Iran has drones in Ukraine right now that they've given to Russia. All of this is part of a global fight for democracy and democratic priorities. And I think, furthermore, it also displays a lack of understanding of how, when you are fighting a counterinsurgency, you've really got to make sure you are taking care of the civilians. Our generals during Iraq and Afghanistan spent an inordinate amount of time worrying about how to get power to populations, how to get food and water to populations. And so the humanitarian relief part of this package is critical as well.
That's Mikey Sherrill. She's military. Honestly, the idea that the right wing will actually do anything in the right way at all ever, or that they stand for peace or peaceful solutions or diplomacy or any of those things, or humanitarian aid, or housing the unhoused, or protecting children, or feeding children, or no, fetuses. Yes, fetuses. Yes, of course. Children, no. Not even in the United States, no. Why? The Children's Health Insurance Program that Hillary Clinton, oh, please, Hillary, she smells like sulfur. Children, she wanted to insure children so they could go to the doctor. What kind of a fiend is she? Fetuses, not children. They are very sick and twisted people. They are really ideologically bent. They're twisted in their reality. They're twisted in their own self-importance. And they're entrusted with some of the biggest arsenals the world has ever manufactured. And that is what is frightening. And now you can see why. Not that you were so concerned about anything that was going on in Ukraine when they were encircling Bakhmut and killing, children and women and raping them as a tool of war. This is so Russian, and the starvation and the turning the heat off in the middle of the winter. Yeah, everybody's moved on now to a new right-wing atrocity, except this one's just, I don't know. I mean, the reason why this is so interesting, the reason why we couldn't support Ukraine, according to the right wing, was that they were Nazis, right? Ukraine was full of Nazis. And here you have the extermination of a people that Benjamin Netanyahu just, has fantasies about. Not that, America will let him do it, Not that even Saudi Arabia will let them do it. They won't because their street gets inflamed. Do you understand? But this is what he goes to sleep, dreaming about or hoping to dream about. And they don't think that. Oh, never mind. You know where I'm going. All right. Jacob in Wisconsin.
Hi, Randy.
Hey.
Hi, first time, long time.
Oh, really?
That felt good.
That's what I live for on Friday.
Yeah. Well, I want to say, first of all, thank you so much for keeping us sane. I mean, especially right now, I feel like this is such a complex issue, what's happening in Israel and Palestine. And
you know what? It's really not that bad of a thing to wrap your brain around. It really has to do with one person's wish to never have peace and to stay in power because there is no peace, and only he can, keep them safe at night when obviously he can't.
Yeah, but I think you're like what you said, that all these right-wing people around the world know each other and have each other's back is so true. Those same forces are kind of messing up our country. I'm sick of it.
Exactly. Thank you. You're finally putting it all. It's just connecting some very right-wing dots, okay? And that is what is going on. And it will never be any different with them. Never. And if you don't stop Putin in Ukraine, just saying, okay, Putin and Iran, they are doing this in Israel now. But if you don't stop him in Ukraine, do you really think he's going to stop there? Oh, no. Oh, hell no. See, Donald Trump was going to destroy NATO for him. And so he wouldn't have even had to fire a shot. They would have just given him, Donald Trump would have given him Ukraine. And the Ukrainians would have risen up and they would have fought, but he figured that once it was his, he could say they want to be with Russia, just like, Trump did about Crimea. Same thing's going on here. Same thing. They just take what they want. And it's never going to be enough, ever.
Yeah, and I just don't know where it's going, I don't know what the end game is for people like Tuberville or Putin or anything.
Okay, so the thing with us is, okay, we are still a democracy, and while forces are trying to rip Democrats apart so that either they will stay home or they will vote for somebody other than, Biden because, they want to protest something, they don't like what they see happening in Israel. They didn't care about Ukraine, but they do care about this for some weird-ass reason. Why one and not the other? I guess the anti-Semitism is just so easy to come by. But it depends on who we actually, vote for. It depends on the outcome of this next election, which is it's almost a year to the day. Okay, it's Tuesday, November 5th, 2023, or 2024 is the election. And today,
isn't that scary?
It's scary. Today is November 3rd, 2023. So it's a year and 2 days away. And the result of that will determine what the hell happens to us. And how it resolves itself.
Yeah. Yeah, it is scary. And I think there's a few things. One, I don't know why we keep seeing polls about who's going to win versus Biden when we don't even have a nominee. I kind of like a year out, but I think it's sad because I think it's sort of spreading. I think Trump didn't happen in a vacuum. Like the right wing has been building up to someone as bad as that for a while, but now I feel like he unleashed so much around the world that people feel like they can just be awful and nobody cares.
Yeah, we are in that period. We're definitely, yeah, I do know. And we are definitely in a period of rage monkeys. We're in a period of, hating a guy who is responsible for one of the greatest economies we've ever seen. I mean, we have 4.9% GDP, 5% growth. 5% growth. You had resolutions to almost every strike in favor of the workers. Okay, you got 10 million open jobs. Unemployment is at a historical low, and it has been for quarter after quarter after quarter after quarter. And Biden gets 35% approval on the economy. Doesn't that tell you? Doesn't that tell you that the information people, the people that are pumping, information into the atmosphere are negative about Biden to the point where people believe it?
Yeah, and it also says something about people not paying attention, because they should be able to know that and look up what he's done. He's done a lot.
I know, but people get their news off of social media now, and social media is trending for the right. Social media is, Elon Musk is talking about giving Starlink to Hamas. Starlink to a terrorist organization. He was talking about turning it off for Ukraine and giving it to a terrorist organization.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
I'm just looking up at the Chiron on the TV. I got Nicole Wallace up there. God, she's freaking gorgeous, okay? Just my brother-in-law is in love with Nicole. In love with you, Nicole. Larry, he's in love with Nicole. But I'm just looking at the Chiron underneath, and it says judge expands gag order to include Trump's lawyers now. Because Chris Kise, I don't know if you know who he is. Chris Kise was like our Solicitor General in Florida. He was responsible for arguing in front of the Florida State Supreme Court. He's the solicitor. Anyway, he's now Donald Trump's lawyer. He also went after the Judge Engoron. He has a staffer. He's got a clerk that sits next to him and watches the proceedings. And it's a bench trial. There's no jury. And they've already found the Trump organization liable for fraud, right? Because, listen, the easiest piece of it is to understand that, the children who are being dragged in here and they haven't done anything, signed off on evaluation of the triplex that is Donald Trump's home in Trump Tower, saying it was 30,000 square feet when it was really a third of that. It was 10,000 square feet. And everyone and anyone who's ever worked in real estate, or anyone and everyone who's ever lived in Manhattan, knows that everything is sold price per square foot, and that the difference between 10,000 square feet, which is humongous to begin with, that is a mansion in Manhattan, and 30,000 feet, which is like a freaking whole townhouse sort of a thing, is exponentially different, okay, the value. And they signed off on it because, he's pouring concrete. He had no time to actually check and see that Daddy's apartment was really, listed as 30,000 square feet, which would make it exponentially more valuable than if it was at 10,000 square feet, which also is a mansion. Oh, God, they're so sick and they're so. But anyway, Chris Kise apparently went off on this girl, Allison, who is the clerk for Judge Engoron. And Engoron said, you go one step. What is with you and your misogynistic attacks on my staff? Your client, I had to gag him twice already about talking about my staff. Don't make me gag you too. Well, he wouldn't stop, so he gagged him too. And that's how the trial ended this Friday. To be continued next week with Donald Trump taking the stand in his own defense. It's just the damages portion, okay? That's all that's left is to figure out how much the lying cost banks and how much the lying cost New York taxpayers. That's it. That's all that's left to do, and that's what this is about. Because they've already adjudicated Donald Trump's organization as being fraudulent. They already found him liable for fraud. He can't even be, the charity thing. He's already been found liable for fraud. He can't be on the board of directors of a charity. None of his family members can, because they defrauded people in the Trump charity. And then the other thing is so they can't do a charity. Oh, the We Build the Wall, that was fraud too. Oh, and the Trump University. He had to pay $25 million in restitution to the people that attended Trump University who he defrauded into believing that it was a real thing. It was a real university. So, let's make him president. Let's give him, all the generals that'll be loyal to him. And, let's get it on. Let's get violent. Let's do it, because that's what will happen. By the way, I just want to wish a happy anniversary to a friend of the Randi Rhodes Show, the 38th governor of Minnesota, Jesse Ventura. Hi, Jesse. Mwah, love you. Today is the anniversary of his election to be the 38th governor of the state of Minnesota back in 1999 when I was really cute.
He calls to just kind of to chat and drop info bombs more than you think. And he said he watches all the time. Big fan of the show.
I know.
Jesse, we'd love to have you on air more. And everybody else, call in.
Go talk to Brett. I didn't say it. He did. All right. Clay in Mississippi.
Hi, Randy.
Hi, Clay.
So, just real quick before I get on my point, I guess, why don't we call Mike Johnson Taliban Mike? And just, start calling him that.
Why? Oh, because he's into his Sharia law type mind?
Yeah, exactly. He's all about that.
He is all about
controlling
that.
everybody based on what he believes.
I'm telling you, there's religious extremism in every nook and cranny of this world. It's just a whole lot more when it comes to
crazy.
When it comes to Christianity and Islam than there is when it comes to any other. You don't see radical Mormons. I don't see them very often.
No. Not too many radical Scientologists, except maybe Tom
I don't
Cruise,
know.
But
He jumps on couches and stuff, screaming he's in love.
Right. Well, he's all right, I guess. But so I was calling because I was thinking about when you go and vote. I know that I don't know all the candidates that are on the ballot, and a lot of people don't know who's on the ballot. You go in there and there's a ballot, and there's people you've never heard of, and if there are two people you've never heard of on a Democratic, for instance, thing, which one do you pick? Which one has the better chance of defeating a Republican? So I thought, well, what if each candidate can put a poster up of what they are for? What is their platform in the voting facilities? What do you think about that? So that people could be informed as they vote.
I think the rule is something like 50 yards away for politics.
Right. That's for those signs. But I just wondered if there was some way to, this would be informative, not.
I think, Clay, that's what they call the internet.
Right.
But, I think
when
you
you're
can
at
do
the
it.
place.
You can do it on your phone.
That's exactly what I told Clay. As I'm
Oh, you
standing
did?
at the ballot,
Yeah.
I just Google every name on the ballot.
Yeah, everybody does. People do it all the time because, you think you've done your research, you think you're good to go, then you get there and there's judges, okay?
Yeah.
And the judges don't have party affiliation. And so you're like, well, who do I choose, And so you look it up on your phone. So that's kind of what people do. Wendy in Tennessee.
Yes. Hey, Randy, first time. So I heard your concern that you expressed about the younger generation siding with the Palestinian cause, and I sat down with my kid last night. They're 26. They go by them, they, them. And I asked what their generation is saying on social media, and my kid was just sobbing. And they said, yes, we're for Palestine. We're not for Hamas, but we want to free Palestine. And I said,
but Palestine needs. I'm sorry. Palestine needs to be freed from Hamas.
Yes, on all sides, for sure. And what my kid was saying is they're afraid that a lot of their generation has not had really good access to good education that tells you how to think critically. So they said, I think a lot of my friends are very black and white thinkers, and it's kind of go this and not that, and that ultimately there's a lot of gray in the world in general, and certainly in war. And we talked around it, and we talked about how bad governments make choices for their people, and the people get caught in the middle. And they really came away from that, I think, thinking more deeply about the whole story. But I know you're concerned that a lot of them are just sort of jumping on the bandwagons. And I think, these are kids who've watched school shootings go unaddressed. These are kids who have been dealing with climate change and feeling like nobody's taking care of it. And so they're seeing another group of people they're seeing that are not being listened to and heard. And they're just basically blindly falling into an empathy as if it's a simple story.
Well, it's really not that complicated. So the idea that they are making it as oppressor and oppressed could, actually, because you're saying something very important. There is no critical thinking taught anymore. And so it's fallen into like a group. Either you're in the oppressed group or you're the oppressor, right? I get that. I understand that. But the idea that the oppressor is Hamas is being lost here. And that's not complicated. It's just not. And that Hamas is supported with dollars and every other kind of support that you would want by Benjamin Netanyahu. That is a fact. And so if you want, if they just wanted to, be, black and white, oppressed and oppressor, it is the right-wing lunatics. It's the right-wing religious freaks. It is the right-wing business freaks who don't want to do anything about climate change, who don't want to do anything about radicalization in religion, who don't want to do anything about oppressors. That's where it is. That's where the problem is. When you look,
I hear you.
Yeah, and so we have to just keep on talking to them, keep on talking to them, keep on talking to them, because
absolutely,
yeah, they're
don't give up on those kids. They're open to being, to being reasonable. Yeah, and talk to.
Yeah, well,
valued.
That's kind of what I do. I know, and while I'm sitting here spitting out a spleen each and every day, trying to explain that the right-wing business crowd is the right-wing religious crowd, is the right-wing oppressor crowd, and that you'll never find a right-wing person that isn't willing to support a terrorist organization. It will never happen. I'm doing it because I know our kids need to have an explanation.